All right, so we've got Elizabeth here with us. Super excited to have her. She is the founder of the Wild Soul Movement. She has this incredible book, you guys have to get it, called Untame Yourself. And her podcast is absolutely one of my favorites. She has just so much energy and the most amazing guests. Untame the Wild Soul podcast. So you absolutely have to check her out. But Elizabeth, welcome. So glad you're here.
Thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh, this is going to be super, super fun. I already know,
so
obviously.
Fun.
Love your energy. I just feel like, can we just please just really get into it today?
Yeah, I mean, you never have to ask, you never have to twist my arm for that. So
I love
yeah.
You're a New Yorker, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're going to like tell it like it is, which is one of the things that I love about you. Okay. So a lot of people don't know you who are maybe coming from my audience. So I want you to kind of give people an idea of this journey that you've been on, where you started in the fitness industry and now you're kind of coming to a place where you've reconnected to your body. You've created this incredible movement. So kind of give people like the rewind a few years ago and then fast forward. What's going on for you now? What is the Wild Soul Movement?
Cool. I'll share with you. I love telling this story. It was like that impetus, that moment of being like, oh, something's got to change. So I was a personal trainer for a number of years and, working with a lot of different clients, mostly women. And I started to really notice how inevitably people could be doing all of the external physical stuff right, like nailing it with their nutrition, their fitness, showing up for their workouts. We're measuring them once a month, like, yeah, they're losing inches and stuff. But anytime some big emotional thing, something in a relationship, something at their job, like some inner thing came up, the physical results could be wiped out so swiftly. And then they start eating like crap and canceling workouts and whatever. So I became so much more interested in what was going on inside, in the energetics, the more subtle aspects, the mental, emotional realm of all these things. And around that same time too, I had also started studying like feminine archetypes and feminine energy. And there were just all these questions I had about my own self, but I was seeing it also reflecting in what was going on with my personal training clients. So I was working in this boutique training studio in the West Village in Manhattan. And it was like a higher end type place. The guy who owned it had some celebrity clients, a lot of fashion industry people, like totally not my like native environment, right?
Yeah.
So I created this lower body conditioning class called Aspire. It was like cheeky. It was like AS*PIRE. It was for the butt. And Marie Claire wanted to feature it and they wanted me to make a video. So studio owner hires a film crew, hair and makeup, all this stuff. And here I am in the day of this video shoot. If you're watching this, you see like this hair. It's like very curly and very like untamed, if you will. And they straightened my hair. They put so much makeup on my face, you couldn't see my freckles. And at the time, Mary, I was in the best shape of my life. I had my own visible abs and they painted contour lines on my stomach anyway.
Holy shit.
And I'm like, do you have any idea how hard I worked for these abs? Are you kidding me? It's just essentially the message is, you're not good enough the way you are. You're not good enough the way you are. You're not good enough the way you are. And something clicked for me that in agreeing to this, in agreeing to straightening my hair, putting lip gloss on, like I'd never work out with lip gloss on. No offense to people who do, it's fine. But it wasn't me. I was like, oh, I'm letting these people paint me how they would prefer I be to communicate the message. This is a problem. And so that's when I, like literally 2 months after that, I quit personal training. I went totally online, started doing everything my own way in my fitness business. And then gradually I even started phasing out of that because I'm like, I have to make one more YouTube video about like how to do kettlebell swing. I'm going to shoot myself. And I just became so much more interested in connecting to my body, because something I realized as a personal trainer, I thought I was really connected to my body. I wasn't. I was good at paying attention to my body. Like, what do I feed this thing? How do I move this thing? But not from a place of, because I was being discerning and because I was feeling into and asking my body, what do you need? What do you want? It was more like, what does the world want and need from me? Or how do I need to put myself out there for whatever reason, whatever gajillion reasons we as women decide that we need to be, do, or have something,
There's so many questions I have, because I think the initial question is, how did you learn that there was this disconnect between just paying attention versus really listening? And how did you learn how to listen to your body?
So I went to not necessarily on purpose and still actually motivated by like the old kind of do something to please a man thing. I went to a pole dancing class because I wanted to try it, but I wanted to like do something sexy. I wanted to be able to like do something sexy for my boyfriend at the time. And so I went to this pole dancing class, Sheila Kelly S Factor in New York City. I think it was on like in the Flatiron District or like 28th Street or something like that. 23rd. Yes, Flatiron. Okay. Not that you guys care about that detail, but it was going to bug me. So I go to this class. It's 90 minutes. And like back then, I didn't really do any yoga. So going to a 90-minute class for me was like, what the, like, this shit better be good. I don't know if I could say the S word.
Oh, yeah. You can cuss. Go for it.
Okay, great. So I go in and like the whole first 30 minutes is a warm up. And I'm like, a 30-minute, like I teach total body conditioning classes. The warm up is like 3 minutes, maybe. But the first 30 minutes, it was all this like slow sensual movement, like all this like circling your hips, like doing this, like this stretching, like so slow. And at first, this like the native New Yorker in me was like, all right, let's go, like kick it up. Let's get to the pole tricks.
Yeah.
But then I was like, wait a minute, this feels amazing. By the time the class was over, I was in my body and sensually connected in a way that I had never experienced before. And I like instantly had this contrasting experience when I went back out onto 23rd Street and I'm walking down the street and I'm like, whoa, it was like I had just visited another planet and then returned home. And I was like, something happened in there. So that actually, like many of you listening or watching, or Mary, I'm sure you as well can probably relate. Sometimes there are these moments where something gets woken up within us and we don't know what the significance is yet, what it's going to mean or how it's going to impact us, but it does. And it starts this like slow burn and this simmer and wakes up this like curiosity that will not go away.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I can remember that moment for myself. And I don't know if you experienced this, but for me, I had a lot of like sexual shame from the way that I was raised in, Christian environment and all of that, to where for me, I can remember the first time I began moving my hips, it was like I had all these alarm bells go off that were saying like, don't move your hips like this. This is not what good girls do. This is bad. And I had a very similar experience where afterwards I was like, I feel so open. I feel so alive. And so I'm curious, did you have any of those sort of like either spiritual blocks or just societal, norms of the good girl when you went into that pole dancing class?
So what's funny is good girl was never a thing for me. I was never, like my mom will tell you, that's not ever been like, she'd be like, Lizzie was never trying to be a good girl. That wasn't really me. Always kind of rebellious. However, I started developing breasts in the 3rd grade. I got my period in the 5th grade. Like I was like, my transition into womanhood happened early. And being raised Catholic, the message wasn't that it's shameful or bad, but it was that it's not safe or that you should be modest. Like basically the message was cover that shit up. Right. Because when I would buy, for so many years I was a tomboy, so I'd be wearing like baggy t-shirts, jerseys and stuff like that anyway. But once I actually started wearing form-fitting clothes, it was like the alarms went off in my house and anything of that variety would somehow disappear in the laundry. So it wasn't communicated explicitly, but implicitly it was like, this is not okay. Wow. So stuff around that and around being seen that way and expressing in that way, that was certainly a thing for me.
Yeah, I was thinking about this. I was reading, have you read The Beauty Myth?
No.
Okay, put it on your list. You'll totally love it. But it's a book that explains like how we as a society have constructed it in such a way to keep women small and out of power politically, religiously, otherwise. And one of the things that they were talking about is rewind forever ago, Renaissance era, where they would have these heroes as men, these huge plaques and men and, as horses and leading the charge and all of this. And they were, famed for their name and the history that they impacted. And then if you think about it, this was like mind blowing to me. The women that are depicted are nameless, naked, and usually some kind of, ethereal archetype, but never real women who are making change in the world. And growing up for me, I went to a classical education school, and I can remember that they would put bikinis on like if we were studying Renaissance art, they would put bikinis on the mannequins, like on a PowerPoint. They would do it because God forbid as Christian American women that we see what a woman's body looks like.
It's like, I have one. I know what that shit looks like.
Yeah. And like, why is there all this shame around it? And this, like, again, don't be seen, don't be heard. So for you, how did all of that birth the Wild Soul movement? How did you get to that place?
Yeah, so I don't know that I've ever articulated it this way before. So thank you for sharing the book and that experience, because what I'm realizing literally in this moment after talking about this how many times over the last several years is that something I decided to rebel against was my body being sexualized.
Talk about that, because I'm like so curious about that.
Yeah, right? So it's like, yeah, I get it. It's sexy. And that's not the only thing it is. This thing is powerful. This could make a baby. Like, this could bring life into the world. It's super intuitive. So part of my motivation for Wild Soul Movement was to help women value themselves and their bodies for far more than what it looks like. And even for what it could do. Like, great, I'm glad you can lift weights. Like, Girls Gone Strong, like, real women lift shit. Cool. But also, there's intuition. Your body is constantly communicating with you through your body's unique language of the senses. Like, you're getting downloads and messages all the time. Like, when you think you don't know the right answer, you do. You just don't know how to pause and get into your body and listen and find it, right?
Yes.
So my whole thing was about creating this sensual movement practice. It's like a movement, as in like a revolution, let's go do this thing, but also a movement practice, very connective. It's sensual, it's slow. Sometimes it's rigorous and fierce, like we shake things out and do stuff like that. We pat our body and we might like amp it up, but it's not a workout. It's like a work in. To literally give a woman time on a yoga mat simply to be with herself and to be in her body and to realize that, like, regardless of what anyone else says about your body, it is so sacred. And likely you don't have that relationship to it. So you need to cultivate that relationship to get the most out of it.
Yeah, and I know for me, because my story, I used to be incredibly overweight, 100% numbed out, disconnected from my body. I didn't understand that was even a relationship. And one of the first things that my coach had me do was to lay my hands on my body to the parts that I was the most verbally abusive to, my stomach, my arms, my thighs, and to say, I love you and I'm sorry. Yeah. And just that connection, like, oh, my body actually has its own identity, its own personality, its own, like, it's like in a way outside of myself, in the sense that it's its own thing, and I can dialogue with it. I can have a conversation with it. And I had been abusing it for years and yelling at it and shaming and basically berating it for not doing more or not changing. And I really saw my body as the enemy. And so talk to me about how you walk people through getting to the place where they begin to partner with their bodies and see it as their ally.
Yeah. So in the Wild Soul Movement practice, a basic practice will just start with some like breathing, just like getting present. And we do like a body scan. It's just like, notice what's going on in there, connect, like stop thinking and drop in and go, cool. Like, what do I feel and where do I feel it? Is there tension? Is there tightness anywhere? Is there pain anywhere? Do I feel great somewhere? Do I feel like loose and open? Like, just naming and noticing is like step one. And then we also use mantras. They're simple mantras, something like, it is safe for me to let go, because then that gets it also into the metaphysical realm where I'm moving my body, but I'm also intentionally choosing the thought, which is going, those two combinations, like when the movement becomes a physical expression of the words that you're focusing on, wanting to cultivate or wanting to get something or generate something in and through the body, then all kinds of stuff can come up and you can really live into that right there on the mat in that practice. Like, it is safe for me to let go. How many people feel like it's not safe, right? Like, all of each section of Wild Soul Movement starts with a mantra that says it is safe to, or for me too. Because for so many women, being in their body is not safe. They've been raped, they've been attacked, or it doesn't even have to be like physical abuse. They've incurred some kind of emotional or verbal abuse of and or related to their body or being a woman, or something that comes from or relates to their body. And so, or they've been shamed for like having a period or bleeding or whatever. And so getting to safety first, feeling like having a body and being a woman in a body isn't automatically an invitation to danger or threat.
Wow. I want to know from everybody listening if that resonates with you guys, just type in a number 1 in the comment section if you feel like getting to the place where you could feel a sense of safety in your body. Give me some hearts, give me some likes, comment number 1 in the comments below, and just share, like, is that true for you? Do you feel like that is fundamental? I think about the hierarchy of needs, and you cannot go deeper internally if your sense of safety is threatened in some way. Like, we have to feel safe before we can go into the metaphysical, before we can go into the psychological realms. And then once we feel safe, then we can begin to get curious. Then we can begin to relax a little bit physically, emotionally, mentally, and begin to explore this connection. But I want to know from you, Elizabeth, like, when you start this process, when you begin the journey of connecting to your body, I know a lot of people listening might think that sounds like a great idea, but they're like, what's ultimately the benefit? Like, why is connecting to the body so important that it should become some kind of a priority in their life?
Oh my God, how much time you got, Mary? So
Girl, we got time.
The ultimate answer is this: discernment. When we've all just digested all of the truths and paradigms that have been handed to us by our culture, our families of origin, our religion, schooling, we're operating often not as ourselves, but as a conditioned version of ourselves. So you need to get up in there and really be able to feel and listen to what is your actual truth. And a lot of people, this is scary because they're like, what if I deconstruct my whole life and like I lose everyone and I don't want to do what I do and I can't. Listen, you have to like explode everything all at once, right? Like our mutual friend Jada Selner and I, when Jada came on the podcast, we talked about this. It's like, you don't need to like burn the bridges and blow up the ships,
right?
But you can just get curious, like you said, and be like, okay, and then prioritize. What's the most painful thing that I've been operating under that isn't actually true for me? Address that first and then go from there, right? This is a process, like your lifelong journey is coming home to yourself, right?
Yeah.
So the concept around all of it is that everything you've ever needed has always been inside of you, but we're programmed in one way or another to think everything you've ever needed is out there and you better figure out how to get it in.
And let everybody else dictate that for you.
Yeah. So that's the biggest thing. When you can be in your body, one of the other starting places that I have for people is if all you ever know in terms of speaking your body's language of the senses is what yes feels like, what no feels like, and what truth feels like, you're solid. Because then when all these requests, we're inundated with information and requests all the time, we could be like, oh yeah, that's for me, that's not for me, and absolutely not, that doesn't resonate, or someone's speaking to you and you can tell like they're kind of full of crap, or something comes up. This has happened for me a lot since I started Wild Soul Movement and even my own journey into this in 2013, which is someone is sharing something and I'll get like massive goosebumps or just start crying. That's my body's way of being like, there's massive truth here for you. So pay attention. You need this. And it happens in all kinds of places.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask. Like for people who have literally never connected to their bodies before, what does it look like to feel that yes, to feel that no, to feel that truth? Because I'm sure that that's unique and different for everybody. But that feeling of like, okay, that's great, but how do I know what my yes is? What does that even look like?
And here's the thing that makes it very unsexy. You got to do some trial and error, and you got to work with it to figure it out for you. Because I can tell you what mine feels like, but that's no guarantee that it will feel like that way for you. However, I will say this: if with my book, I have a book companion. If people go to untameyourself.com/companion, in the resources, I actually have a whole video. It's like 9 minutes. It walks people through the yes, no truth practice. I think there's a video and audio and like maybe even something in a PDF. I don't remember. It's almost 2 years old. But I walk people through how to do that. But ultimately, here's what I find commonly across people. A yes is going to feel some kind of opening, expansive, or relief, or calming, or exciting in a way that's not nervous, but like pulls you forward. A no is going to feel the opposite. So constricting, closing, tension, tightening. Maybe your stomach drops, not in the way of like, oh, this is like a good fear that I should follow, but in a way that's like, danger, get out of here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Well, and I think that the understanding the language of sensations, I think, is really important, because I know that most people don't know that even if they're sitting here, they're experiencing physical sensations just by watching. Like, I know right now, because I'm worrying about production and I'm making sure I've got everything, I have a lot of tightness in my shoulders, in the back of my neck, and it feels like a pulling. There's a lot of heat back there, and that is a body sensation. You know, I often talk to people about the heart area, and sometimes the most common places you're going to feel, and totally like jump in here if you have a different opinion, but I see it most showing up in the throat and the heart and the stomach.
Totally.
And so can you describe like a general sensation that you might feel in your throat, you might feel in your heart, you might feel in your stomach, just to kind of give people an idea, like get their wheels spinning about, oh, this might feel that way.
Yeah. A constriction in the chest is often a no. Often, right? Because the constriction is like the closing up, the tightening. Your solar plexus is located between your belly button and your ribs, right? That's your power center. Whether you're into the chakra system or not, like it's just your freaking power center. Yeah. And so I feel a lot in my solar plexus. I've actually been repairing my solar plexus for a couple of years now after some like really funky interactions with certain people. And so even right now as I'm talking, whenever I'm giving, I feel my solar plexus will start to fire up, because it's like my body's way of being like, hey, temper this, don't give it all away. Because that was like it's like, some of it is like a nervous system response as well. So those are the types of things, like since your power center is in your stomach there, your solar plexus, and since your heart center, where like you're really filtering like all of your feelings and emotions, those are I agree with you. There's gonna be two common places. The throat, what's interesting about that is I'm not someone who's really ever had trouble speaking up. So I don't experience the throat stuff, but I know a lot of people do. However,
for sure.
My neck, which is same region, if I'm just like haven't spoken up yet, I'll get like some tension and tightness in my neck. However, sometimes that's just like related to the whole neck and shoulder area, and I have like triple D boobs. So sometimes that's just physiology.
Sometimes it's just the
sometimes weight. This is not esoteric. I have huge titties and they're heavy. You know, like,
I love it. So take us through a practice for yourself. Like, how do you connect to your body daily? What does that look like? Is it a morning routine? Is it throughout the day? Like, what does that relationship look like in a day span?
I touch myself a lot. Yeah. Appropriately and inappropriately.
Nice.
I mean, but again, even that, choosing that language, right? Labeling something inappropriate, that's from like old religion, right? I touch myself. Let me rephrase that. Sexually and not sexually. How's that? Or like
perfect.
Intimately and not, well, it's all intimate. So whatever, use whatever word you want. You get my point. People are smart. I do a lot of breast massage. Actually, I have a video for that, untameyourself.com/breast massage. It's just on YouTube. Nice. It's like 300,000 views. The comments are hilarious. There's 3 types of comments. There's the women who have used it and they're like, oh my God, this is amazing. There's men who are like, I just massaged my penis to this.
Right.
And there's like 16-year-olds like, will this make my boobs bigger? So but either way, it works and it's amazing. I'm doing that for years.
And what's the benefit of that?
Oh, so good. Heart opening. There's so much, your lymphatic system in the breast, your, again, just like that heart chakra, that opening, like tension, tightness, detoxification. Like it's literally, and to be quite honest, it's like a natural boob lift. Anything, right? Like if you have plants, I have so many plants in my house. I water them, I talk to them, they get sun. Like when they get the energy and attention they need, they are thriving and blooming. Right. When they don't, they're like, wow.
Yeah. Because it gets all those nerve endings firing.
Totally. So women who are like, oh, my boobs are saggy, I swear to God, start massaging them every single day. Get like an oil that you really love, like not super like over fragranced or chemically or anything like that, but like a coconut oil, a sesame oil, a grapeseed oil. Start massaging your breasts. They will, I'm not telling you you're going to have like 22-year-old boobs again, but I'm telling you.
Hey, everybody can use a natural lift, I feel.
A natural lift, you know? That's benefit and just connecting with yourself and being able to separate sensuality from sexuality. This isn't, I'm not like playing with my nipples and like getting all turned on. I'm just focusing on like the nourishment of the practice.
That's a big distinction because I think that for women, and I know a lot of my audience is in the church or has been around that kind of upbringing, that there are areas of your body that are sexualized to where we as women aren't even supposed to connect with that or touch that. And then the reality is that like all of life is sensual. If you think about the senses, sight, smell, taste, hearing, all of that, that is being sensual, being turned on to the senses, seeing life in 3D color and seeing the beauty of this creation, the beauty of our bodies and what they were made to experience and to feel. And I know for me, this is not about the sexuality or sensuality part, but there were parts of my body that I was so ashamed of that I never touched. Right. That I never gave any attention. One of which was my underarms. So I was significantly heavier than I am now. And so that area was just very vulnerable for me. And even now, having lost a lot of weight, I still have a lot of extra skin. So my arms aren't, even if I am working out, they're not going to look super toned. So I remember I was in a massage and somebody was massaging me and they started to massage that area, that underarm area. I started to weep.
I knew you were going to say that.
I was just like, oh my, it was like the most vulnerable healing to be like, this part of your body deserves attention too. This part of your body deserves that loving nourishment, that touch that you're talking about. And to this day, I still have a challenging time like accepting and loving that part of my body. But the moment that I offer it touch,
totally,
it's like, I give you permission to exist.
Touch is the most natural, instinctual form of healing, right? Like you bang your knee, what's the first thing you do? You take your hand and you rub it.
Yeah.
Yep. So any kind of self massage, but like that breast area, again, like you said, because it's heart opening, it relates to that space where we're taking in and giving out information all day long.
Love that. So you do that every day. What else do you do?
I really, in the last several months, have gotten into connecting with my womb. So I'll take my hands like a triangle and I will place it like on my womb area, on my pelvis. And sometimes I'll do it outside, like laying on the earth, and I'll imagine literally calibrating my womb to the womb of Mother Earth and feeling super connected in that way. But just like really focusing in, like, again, like if you're familiar with the chakras.
Okay, we're good. All right. And okay, so
we're back. We're talking about the womb.
We're talking about the womb. Elizabeth is talking about putting her hands on her body, connecting with her body, what she does in her daily practice. Okay, so going from the womb, share about that.
Yeah, just like connecting with that creative energy and like kind of like you were saying, just dialoguing. I talk to my body all the time. I spend a lot of time in the mirror naked. I love actually, so for some people this might freak you out. Don't start here, okay? But this is where I'm at now. I like to like shake, like I'll jiggle everything. I'll like shake my thighs and like where I used to be really not into seeing anything jiggle and like sucking everything in. I'm like, this is what it really looks like. This is real. So I like to look at my body naked in front of the mirror and just be with whatever is there. And there are days when I'm like, damn, why does my stomach gotta look like that? Shouldn't have eaten that thing. And here's the other thing I do that has been life altering. And I actually just geeked out on the podcast with Kate Northrup about this recently, is connecting with my menstrual cycle and the moon cycle. So for women who don't menstruate, because maybe you're beyond that phase in your life, maybe you have had a hysterectomy, whatever it is. If you don't bleed, it's totally cool. You can connect with the moon cycle in the same way, but just like noticing the stages and phases and like just honoring that, like when I am bleeding, my energy is going to be lower, but my intuition is going to be higher. And that's like the winter phase of the cycle. When I come out of that, it's like spring. It's like this new energy. I'm renewed. I've just released and shed, right? Then when I move into ovulation, that's like the summer. That's like the potent, powerful, fiery like time. And then the descent into PMS, which is like the fall. Things are getting dark. It's going to be kind of beautiful. The leaves are turning, but then they're going to shed and we're going to go back into winter. And they also correlate to different archetypes, right? So like when you're bleeding, and which will also correlate to like the new moon, the dark moon, that is like the crone. Then there is like the spring is like the maiden. When you come out of your period. Ovulation is like the mother, that really fertile period. And then going to PMS is like that wise, wild woman. So obviously that's my favorite phase.
I love it.
But just understanding and knowing those things helps you to honor this very natural thing that happens in your body, because the menstrual, having a period, is one of the things we make ourselves the most wrong about, because our culture, the advertising around like tampons and maxi pads is like, plug it up and forget about it so you can go back to being super friggin' masculine, because that's the only thing we think you're worth it for, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah.
Get it out of the way.
Incredibly shaming. It's like, yeah, don't let anybody know. Don't talk about it.
Don't let
Keep
anybody
it in
know.
secret.
Don't bleed through your pants. Don't let anyone see this. And God forbid you like take a break. You should still be able to rollerblade, do jumping jacks, and like.
Yeah. Well, I started this process a long time ago where I don't work out when I'm on my period. I let my body completely rest, completely chill out, and let it do its thing. And I had so much shame around my period for years because I had endometriosis. And so for me, that was like really where my body was against me and my enemy and all this pain and all of this. And it wasn't until I could love and accept my body for that natural cycle and process and go, this is like so amazing that my body does this naturally, that it allows the space for me to give birth if I wanted to. It like is this home that is operating inside of myself that is like the most beautiful feminine part of the wondrous fierceness of a woman, creation. You know, and I just think to myself, like, that is such a gift. And I have to now, instead of going, oh, I'm on my period, I hate it. It's like, I am so grateful in this moment, in this season. I'm going to honor it. I'm going to slow down. I'm going to rest, be with it, sit with it, let it do whatever it needs to do. And I am not kidding you. My periods have gone from massively painful, had multiple surgeries, on tons of medication, to ease. To lighter periods, to shorter periods, to very little PMS. Like it's like night and day, and it was all from speaking to my body in a new way, approaching it in a loving manner, and recognizing like what an honor that is to get that every month.
Yeah, and you know what? And I want to speak to this in case anyone listening can't have babies and you have tried. That is an enormous shame point for women.
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with you. Right? Because there's also these assumptions like women are supposed to be able to ... And that's another reason to just shame our bodies, to make ourselves wrong. It's like, there's not, you know, whatever your beliefs around why that is, you are not wrong and you are not defective. Please don't turn that in on yourself and let that be just another reason to not like your body. If you wanted something and you can't have it and she can't produce it, whatever it is, like that creative energy perhaps is meant for something else. I don't know. And I don't want to minimize your situation, but I do want to acknowledge it because I know that not everyone ovulates. I know that not everyone can birth a baby, and that's enormously painful for some people.
Yeah, absolutely. And that has been my story. I was married for 10 years, never had children, you know, all that. And so there is a lot of shame around that. And I can identify with that on some level, not fully, but I think that it is like women in our nature, in our essence, are creative beings.
Totally.
And we don't have to have our physical period for that to happen. Yeah. But just identifying even with that part of it, that creation, the ebb and the flow, that water energy.
Well, and it's the Shakti. Like that is the energy that like is the spark of creation for everything. Yeah. So like if you have ever read any like Greek mythology, like the muses, right? Like the warriors needed the muse to like go out and do the thing. That's like that feminine creative energy. It sparks like everything, whether you're a man or a woman.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That feminine energy is in every human being, you know, which is just amazing. Well, as we're kind of wrapping up, I want to know what's next for you. I know you've got a course coming up in the summer, so share with us a little bit about that and then where everybody can find you.
Cool. Oh my God. You know what's even before the course that I'm so excited about? Yeah. We made an Oracle deck.
Oh my gosh. I've been seeing this on your Instagram and I'm loving it. Okay. Please share.
I'm so excited about this. Easiest thing ever. I thought about it last year. And then in January, I was like, oh, let's do this. I have a friend who's a photographer. I'm like, hey, let's take some pictures of flowers. So they're like, this is the front. These are like the images on the cards with the messages. And it's very much in the nature of the Wild Soul Movement practice. It's all about connecting with yourself, trusting yourself, listening and tuning into the messages within. So each card has a mantra, there's a message, there's rituals, and like it was the easiest thing ever for me to create. I wrote the guidebook in like 2 weeks while I was traveling. It was just like came pouring out, so great. Everyone I've like used it with so far has been like, this is amazing. And yeah, I have started yesterday actually on social media, on my Instagram and Facebook. I did like a reading of like, pick a number, 6, 16, or 36. And then later on I posted the cards and people were like, oh my God, like 6 people were like, I'm in tears, this is perfect. So that actually goes up for pre-order next week. So we're super excited about that. Beautiful. And then in July, the Wild Soul Movement virtual program opens up for enrollment. I enroll for that once a year. And that's like, that's the full shebang where I take women through the whole embodiment experience with the sensual movement around the topics of surrender and release, trust and receiving, wild dreaming and desire, and love and creation. So ultimately the outcome of that is to be able to use the body, get super connected, love, trust, accept, respect yourself, speak up, get some friggin' boundaries, and connect to like the feminine way of like being, doing, creating, and having things that isn't like the patriarchal way that we were all raised in.
Yeah, and I love that. And I love that. I love your voice. I love how bold you are, how willing you are to use your voice and just express your personality in full color. It's just such a gift, I think, for women to see that there are different ways to express yourself as a woman, and that whatever comes innate to you, your natural nature, your natural essence is worth showing and bringing forward, and without having to temper it, without having to quiet your voice to make it acceptable for society. Like, I just love you and your voice because it's just, here it is. And I think that's really important for women to see and for women to hear. And yet there's just such this beauty and this femininity to you also that is both fierce and both gentle. And to see that in tandem working so beautifully is such a perfect example, I think, of powerful women doing amazing things in the world, which is why I just adore you and excited to connect and have you here. So thank you for that. And I'm just putting on the screen, you can find Elizabeth at untameyourself.com. You can also find her on Facebook, on Instagram. You guys know I love Instagram, so it's fun to connect with her there. But my favorite way to get my dose of Elizabeth is checking her out on her podcast, Untame the Wild Soul. You guys, this is where she gets into all of this stuff in more depth with just the most amazing guests. So if you're looking for a new listen, definitely check her podcast out. But thank you so much.